Thank you. Take your time.
Why is everybody like? Why
Hey
is
y'all,
the
I'm
police
Attica
fighting
Scott,
against
former
us?
Kentucky State Representative, and you're joining me today on State Watch Nights.
We will continue to provide updates as we have more information.
Former Kentucky State Representative, and you're joining me today on State Watch Nights.
I've shared that everyone's fears have come true. That we know that there's a level of accountability that we won't see if the federal government gave us hope for an oversight because the police have been policing themselves this whole time, right? They've been in charge, they've controlled the narrative, and then they have someone like Mayor Greenberg who only knows about supporting them but not holding them accountable. And in that case, they're just writing the story they want to write. It seems to me that they're more interested in this 5 year timeline. And you can't put a 5 year timeline on hundreds of documented years of abuse to citizens of Louisville, to people who have come here to live, survive, and thrive. So I'm very disappointed. And I really want Councilman Lininger to make the point about not objecting because it still was the mayor's duty. Because if you were on board with what it said, you signed the agreement. Why wouldn't you object this? Because that is a part of the civil process. That should happen anyway. And then just thinking about there's just this eagerness to say we've done this, we've done that, and we're ready to move forward. I don't think LMPD or the mayor is in a position to tell us when we are done, when we're ready to heal, and the lack of community insight and input. They don't call me. I'm very sensible. I would love to be at the table to talk about these things. I put forth with the community the people's consent decree, which he could have. I've asked for his support, which he could have came out and support, which would help some of my colleagues get on board with this. And that's the part that's frustrating for me because what's to me what was laid out today is okay, here's how we're going to do it, but that and we're going to have two meetings here and there. We're going to do an online survey. When we have such a digital divide in our city, that still won't access the hundreds of thousands of Louisvillians who want to see police reform that we deserve. And that is people who work on every side of this issue, not just us who are activists and organizers and passionate people about it, but people who have been victims, people who work within the system, even people who are police officers are asking for this. So it feels like a huge letdown and it feels like it was drug out on purpose for this very result. And I'm not happy about it.
You know, when we talk about the 5 year timeline, that was a goal in the negotiated consent decree. That was not a hard timeline. So I definitely don't want the city of Louisville to talk about this as a 5 year process. The consent decree isn't a checklist. This is an ongoing process. What goals are we meeting? What goals are we not meeting? And that needs to be taken as it comes, and not to try to put an artificial timeline on the process. On the process that led us here, it's very disappointing that we had 2 years ago that we received the findings of the DOJ. We knew that this was absolutely what was going to happen if Trump won the election this past November. It is disappointing that it took so long to enter into the negotiated consent decree, and essentially the clock ran out on our ability to be into it before Trump took office. That's a really negative outcome. When we talk about what is going to happen going forward, the mayor's office said in this press conference today that they want accountability. It was something that Chief Humphreys was really adamant about, that they want accountability. Accountability means from a separate branch of government. I would like the mayor to have come to us and asked for an ordinance so that there was power of law behind this program and not just at the discretion of the executive branch, which is where LMPD is housed. The consent decree requires oversight. That oversight belongs in this co-equal branch of government. If it's not going to be in the judicial, if it's not going to be in the courts, then it needs to be in Louisville Metro Council. We have the Government Accountability and Oversight Committee. That is one of the only committees that is required by state law. It has subpoena power, and the reason it exists and the reason it has that power is explicitly for oversight of the executive branch. That's where this belongs. We need to have an ordinance that puts oversight of the independent monitor into government accountability here at Louisville Metro Council.
Shamika, moving forward, what is your role for the police?
I shared with others before that since 2020, my role has shifted many times from being the leader of the Bail Project, in co-leadership for the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, now executive director of Vocal and a Louisville Metro Councilwoman. So I think my role is to do exactly what Councilman Linenger is saying. I am not on the government oversight committee like I was last year, but I want to encourage the members of that committee and encourage ordinance and legislation that would help seal in what the people identify. Because it wasn't just the DOJ's report. There's a history of policing report that was commissioned by the former administration that was widely accepted and on the police website. I have issues when I hear the mayor says this will be housed on the police website. Again, if you don't tell me how you're going to hurt me, you definitely can't tell me how we're going to heal. I think that I have nothing against the police chief Humphreys and the things that he's working on. He came into new leadership, but we've had several police chiefs who have been unable to bring us the reforms that we need. He has a job to do to currently work on those reforms. We have a job to make sure that people are held accountable. My fear is that the families of Breonna Taylor and too many more are not getting the justice on every level that they deserve for their loved ones that have been victims of police abuse, police inaccountability, and police terror. And we can't erase that over with some press conference and some, even Chief Humphrey said today, words on a paper. He is saying basically what he's doing is taking action before the words on the paper. We need it all. We need a multifaceted approach. We need the words on the paper. We need the action. We need the reports, the timely reports to the community, and we need the voices of the community at every level. They don't want us in the budget negotiation for their police contract. They don't want us in the decision making for what's coming out of the monitor. We don't want two candidates put forth to us that we didn't choose. So I think that if the mayor is really serious, the only way we can hold this mayor accountable is because he wants to be reelected. And I plan to use that as a tool to push him to do what's right by the people. To be honest, we're going to do our part as council people. And I know that there's some of our partners like the Urban League who are saying this is all on the council. It's not just on us. It's on the mayor because like he said, the governance of the police sits at the executive level. But we are willing to do our role as council, and we have other allies and colleagues who are willing to do it. This is going to take everyone, the faith community, Cloud. We met with Cloud. We've made promises to the community. We have to make sure we hold them accountable, and we have to do that at the ballots. We have to do that when we show up to community forums. We have to do that with follow up. Thanks to all the people who's been emailing. The Kentucky Alliance has an amazing petition that they've been getting signed, and I want Tyra to speak on that. It's been important that we all do our part. That's what we've been doing since 2020, showing up for community, showing up to do our part. When leaders do things like this, it's balance in decision making that is the real problem. Because if you make the right decisions, everybody pays attention. If the gangs in the streets hear that, oh, even the police are held accountable when they violate people's human rights and laws, it makes them think twice. What they see is two different gangs operating, one with money, power, and the ability to navigate and tell their own narrative, and one that is being policed in a different way. I want to see equity in policing. I want to see fairness, and I plan to use every hat I wear, every role I have to do that.
The police reform will come from the local level?
I think it needs to, but I think we're going to need more help.
Obviously, there's a long road to having the culture change that we need in LMPD. That's not going to happen overnight. I hope that we're moving towards that. Something the mayor can do right now, he can commit to opening up the FOP negotiating processes, that the Fraternal Order of Police union contracts will be negotiated openly and in public, and the mayor can call for the reappointment of Inspector General Ed Harness.
That's right.
There has been pretty public friction between the Inspector General and LMPD in the mayor's office. That friction isn't a bad thing. It's his job to have some friction to kind of bring up community concerns that are maybe being missed, to bring up things that are not being addressed, and so something that would, I think, that would go a long way towards showing the community that we're going in the right direction is to go ahead and reappoint Ed Hartness.
And I would add support the people's consent decree as it is a resolution acknowledging the documented harms of LMPD, and then also the survey.
For us, we are still working on that survey that has gone out to the community about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you can find that at the Kentucky Alliance is it .org or .com? I think it's I'm going there all the time. Is it .org or .com? Org. KentuckyAlliance.org, and click on the survey and take the survey about what you want to see, and talk about the transparency that we're requesting from excuse me, LMPD and Louisville Metro Council and our mayor. We are also, the Kentucky Alliance, we had a press conference last month or so asking them, requesting for them to reappoint Ed Harness
That's right.
as Inspector General. We cannot hide the defects that we have in our city. It's been, like she said, it's been hundreds of years and it's been going on, and we can't put a price on people who have lost loved ones, on human beings. So no matter how much it costs, we need to make sure that if we have this consent decree, I know we have this consent decree, we need to know who's going to be monitoring the consent decree and who they're going to report to, because we want transparency in that as well. Um, and I was going to say something else. I got brain fog. I know this is being recorded. It's not live, right?
No, yeah, we'll edit.
She got your back.
Menopause.
I want to add that the Inspector General harness piece is really important to the community because his appointment it ends at the end of the year. And I saw in some of the mayor's comments, he said that the independent monitor, which we already have budgeted, we took 350,000 out of our last year budget. There'll be the additional for this budget, so it'll be a total of 750,000. That's not just one person; it's a whole monitoring team. But what Inspector General Ed Harness is doing is different from what the monitor would do. So I do agree that that monitor would be best used to be reporting to the government accountability. So there's that subpoena power, there's that ability that we can have some transparency. And in this group that the mayor is forming to help be this commission he has, it needs to be made up of not just law enforcement, of organizers, of activists, of community groups. We got to stop running from it because it was really the organizers and activists that got us the DOJ investigation in the first place. It's like, they want to take our work from us. They want to say they did all these things, but they did not do it without pressure. That pressure will continue, and that will continue from our faith groups, that will continue from community advocates, our legal teams, legal support, people who say we want policing done right in Louisville. You can't just say that. You can't just change the uniform, build a new headquarters, overfund the budget. You got to show that through action steps, and people need to see that. Nobody's asking nobody to go and harm anybody. I get it. The police chief needs a force that respects him and knows that they're respecting him. But just like I am in my community, I want to be held accountable. I'm not absent from accountability from my community, from my neighbors, from my family. Police are that's a very public position. They have to show that there's checks and balances. Right now, with the Louisville Metro Police Department, we don't have checks and balances, and that's what this consent decree had gave us some promise of. Having the federal government come in as the top dog policing to come in and have oversight over our police gave us another lens that we didn't have before. That's why it's heartbreaking. Is because now we're back to LMPD doing what they do and policing themselves. Yes, there's changes. There's been some changes, and they should get credit for that. But they don't get to take away from the justice and the accountability that the community has been asking for far too long.
Absolutely. Last question. What is your hope for the future, and how can the community respond?
My hope for the future is that we continue to put enough pressure on the current administration, on my colleagues who are torn between I want to support the police. I want them to have all the tools they need to have, but accountability comes with those tools. And we need to make sure that the communities understand these are people who are appointed and elected by you. That when you have the decision making to do that, you get the right people in office. They don't have to be like me, and I don't want to stay here forever. I came in to learn how these things happen from the inside out, but it's going to take the community, the people power, the political will to build and bring that change. I actually think we're getting close to being there if they bring more people to the table. It can't be your usual groups. Stop being afraid of activists and organizers and people who come out and protest. Our country was built on protests, on people running from oppression and repression. We're not going to change things if we don't have people show up. Literally got off the bus from DC fighting against the HUD cuts, the Medicare cuts, because all of these decisions, they trickle down to the ground, to the community. So if the mayor and the police chief really want to stop the violence, they got to stop the violence within their own police department first. And once people see that, then you can stand on that accord and say we're really ready for change. I think the real changes needs to come from the top down, not the bottom up. Once the people see the top is rank and file and taking action, the other people will get in line. The people are ready. I have hope for the police chief. I feel like right now the police chief is focusing on protecting the department and protecting what he's trying to do. If he's willing to listen and understand, and not in a way of being, I'm not listening to respond or not listening to say my officers go out and risk their lives. We go out and risk our lives too. If we're pulled over by the wrong officer, we don't have a life. Our lives are just as valuable as your officers' lives. And I think sometimes the police chief does not convey that. We're not insurgents. We're not at war. We're not these little beings that you just gotta make sure they just stay in line. We also deserve accountability. We pay your salary. We paid all those police officers' salary, and we're not paying them to abuse us. When that abuse is happening, it has to be accountability, and he has to figure out where he stands with that. I don't want anybody working for me thinking that I won't hold them accountable. I think he needs to be the same way and not just hide it. If you are disciplining and firing officers for violating rights, we don't have any knowledge of that. Only thing we see is what the media brings to our attention. You all get more information on what the police chief is doing than any of us because they feel comfortable sharing with you. They want to control the narrative with us. Police Chief Humphreys will be better if he stops trying to control the narrative. Let people extend the real issues that they're having. Have a response that speaks to those people and not just his officers, and then also offers his officers accountability, incentives to have policing that doesn't kill people, policing that saves and improves lives. Yes, I'm hopeful he can do that with being there that long. I want to give him all the faith and trust. I just can't right now until I see those major changes happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And can I say one other thing? I want to say, first of all, we need a mayor that's going to cut, that is going to work with the people,
Yes.
work with the community. We don't, like she said, it's not top down, it should be bottom up. Work with your rank and file, work with your community, listen to what we're asking for. And just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean that you push them to the curb. You should listen to the criticism or whatever they have, and then take it and fix it, because something is broken if someone is coming to you giving you constructive criticism and it needs to be fixed. Listen to the community. And I'm not against police officers either, but the Kentucky Alliance has been fighting against police brutality in our community for over 50 years, and it's not going to stop until they fix it with LMPD and our mayor, and they all work together with the community. Listen to the community. Don't leave us out. Bring us to the table, and that's one thing that he's not doing. We're not being invited to the table.
That's right.
I was in Minneapolis recently, and I learned that in 2023, Hennepin County Court judge signed off on a consent decree between Minneapolis and the state government. Now, the question: would a state-level consent decree be beneficial here? Is it something to strive for?
Yeah, I would like that because they some of the complaints even my colleagues had here on council was that we're having a federal person looking on what we do. It needs to be local and then at home. The state is looking at everything else we do in Louisville, from our school systems to everything else. Then, if that is a trusted partner that folks would want to work with and gives us some sense of oversight we can depend on, I'm for that.
And I just want to I think I heard it correctly, but Mayor Greenberg did not reach out to the council when this document was being pressed.
Not that I know of. If he reached out to some of my colleagues, I wouldn't have an idea. But no reach out, and even with, like, he could have supported the people's consent decree. I hope that he supports it coming through now as a resolution that the people have come back. They've watered it down and made it an acceptable document for people. I hope that the mayor would give it to its blessing. If he does that, it would help some of my colleagues because they feel like they don't want to do anything that goes against Greenberg, and that's problematic when you should be worried about the over 700, almost 800,000 people in your city who have issues. A colleague is one thing, but our colleagues don't get us elected. Our constituents do. And I am not here to carry Greenberg's water. I'm here for justice. I'm here for ending the injustices, providing the things that our constituents need in every district, and making decisions that we can look back and say, when it was my turn, I did what's right by the city of Louisville. I think that that's not happening in an equitable and fair manner, and that is a problem.
I was curious about this.
Can I feedback? I want to say something else. Because you just said he's reaching out to some of your colleagues. That's a problem. Mayor Greenberg needs to reach out to everyone, every council member, not just some of them that's going to agree with him. He needs to reach out to those that may not agree with him. So I'm asking Mayor Greenberg to reach out to everyone. It shouldn't have been a surprise that some of the Metro Council members did not know about this press conference and about the decision to accept the consent decree. And everyone should have known before there was a press conference. Some of the people in the community and organizers in the community and organizations in the community should have known that there was going to be a press conference regarding this consent decree. So that just goes to show that there's some gatekeeping, and that's not what we want. There's no transparency.
I'm curious of your thought on the met that Greenberg and I forget the lady's name who was also at the press conference. But, they stated a series of community meetings. A portion of community went through that with the DOJ when they were talking about the consent decree leading up to it. And again, now the question: do you think this is the best method to, number one, educate community on this now Louisville-based consent decree, and two, is this the best method of marketing?
What, the press conference he does?
The community meetings that they're referring to.
No, I don't think the community meetings meet the marker. I think there really needs to be real outreach effort. Just like, the money's going to billboards, to all kinds of ways to address people, organizers. This is where they could work with the community groups that, like Tyra is saying, and those groups will happily get the word out if this is a real commitment to work together. We don't, I remember, like, you can't just send out an email or say you're having a press conference and expect everybody to be there. The people who work here, yes, you can walk across the street and be there in hours notice, but not most people. Most people are working, and I don't think that some of these meetings meet the working class and their ability to be able to make these meetings. We should be bringing the message to them, and everybody gets their media in different ways, which is why we got to make sure that we're doing our part. I put it in my newsletters. We have community meetings. We just had one last night. We talk about it. I'm sure other council people do that as well, but that's still not everybody. I mean, all of us have about 28 to 30,000 people in each one of our 26 districts. Do you think that all of them, like, you don't even see the numbers out here to match that, even in those meetings? The DOJ meetings got a little more fanfare because they worked with some groups and got the word out. They came to the groups. They even came to some organizations I'm connected to. They did it in that way, but this all will have two community meetings in the future, and we'll report. That's just the same old thing. I don't see a difference in the application of, like, wanting to have real community involvement. It has to be surveys, it has to be door to door work, it has to be billboards, it has to be commercials. Why isn't this on commercials? Hey, check out this. This is happening. If you're not putting that, or social media, they could pay for it to be on social media. A lot of people tap into TikTok, all of that. I'm still learning, but but yeah, there's many ways that people can do it, and I think our city government has to adjust to its people and not expect the people to adjust to it, and that's what we see.
Absolutely. And I'm going to encourage the community to visit KentuckyAlliance.org.
You got it.
Click on the survey link, and please take the survey regarding the People's Consent Decree. Thank you.
Tyra, is that your name?
Tyra Thomas Walker.
Okay, what's your title?
Oh gosh, I am the co-chair of the Kentucky Alliance.
Okay,
Yes.
just make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My very last question. I'm pretty sure this. The federal consent decree was 250, 242 pages, something like that. This now Louisville consent decree, 214. Now the question: what do you think, or how much was considered from what was the federal side consent decree into this now Louisville consent decree? And I'm asking this in reference to the OIG, actually specifically. I understand that Inspector General Ed Harness spoke to the Metro Council in an attempt, I believe, to get a memorandum of understanding, which tells me that there's more work to be done there in that relationship. Do you think this Louisville consent decree is going to meet that mark?
So let me tell you what I sent because I got a message from a lot of reporters, even from the New York Times, and who reached out to me about this as soon as it happened. And I just said that, besides saying the fears came true, that the work will continue in other forms, and that the people of Louisville deserve that accountability and transparency that we've all been talking about. That our police department has proven that they are unable to police themselves equitably, and there are too many abuses of power, both internally and externally, that they haven't dealt with and they're still dealing with. The lawsuits are coming not just from the outside but also the inside. I now fear another uprising because that is the language of the unheard. If one more thing that happens similar, not just to what Brown and Taylor did, but the wrong victim will cause people to be out there in the street, and it shouldn't be like that because there shouldn't be no victims. And as I talked about, my role has shifted. I think my push is one to make sure that Inspector General Harness is retained. He brought to council a great idea on how to use what we already have and make that work for us. I think he is the only one in this city, unless there's some other people I don't know about, who has direct experience with working with a federal consent decree, who's helped implement it, who's helped see it through. But to me, you want those kind of experts at the table. And he's a former law enforcement. And I said for too many years, we know that our mayor, his administration, and the police chief are incapable of doing it all alone. I think that that is the most important part. They can't do it by themselves. They must let people in, pay people help, and that's why I said we have to use the desire for reelection. But when it comes to the last part of your question, um, he did not mention activists, grassroots, or social justice based organizations for this group that he's putting together. He didn't mention that. There should be demands for their involvement. It's true, because that's what got us here. He didn't answer directly on whether Inspector General Harness was going to remain in charge. So is he thinking about somebody else? They do a lot of like throwing a rock and hiding the hand. They don't let some of us know stuff here at council because they're worried. They want to be the ones to first announce it in the news. I'm less interested in what gets announced to the news and what plays out for the people. And that 750,000 is not a lot of money compared to what we're paying in lawsuits. This new police headquarters, the costs keep going up. We're paying anyway. And so I don't want to hear that it costs too much money. We have the money. And they've already, and it seems like to me, they've already handpicked who this monitor will be, and they just haven't given it to us yet. I think the city does a lot of arbitrary things just to check a box, but is it really genuine if you already have the idea of who you're going to pick? Let us know because now we're guessing. We already have names that are being tossed around of who they've already picked. So they think that their secrets are safe, but people are using it to their advantage. And their record on real transparency in the community input involvement is not clear. It's not happening, and they're not showing that. So there's a lot of doubt on what will come of this. So I think we have a job to do as council to do our part. The mayor has a job to do for his part. The police chief has a job to do, and the community, to me, has a big job in keeping this fire lit so that they keep it a priority. If the community says, "Oh, they got it handled. We're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and we're going to go back," we're going to be dealing with another upset. And I don't want to see that happen. It's getting dangerous for all of us. All of us that stood out there, we're still dealing with the impacts of standing out there. It's been very retaliatory. And even before Councilman Arthur left, he told me, be careful when you speak out against police abuse and accountability or budget. Then I've had people in my constituents call me and say the police told me to call you. Like they divert people. They won't even come to something. I don't know who's doing these things. I do know that they're happening, and I believe the people.
I do realize I said that was the last question, but I thought of one more question, which is, and it really piggybacks off what you spoke of, because people are daunted. People are, after hearing the this consent decree is being thrown out, what words, if any, could you have to say directly to them as to motivation, any type of sense of hope?
Oh, a sense of hope. I messaged Tamika Palmer and I thanked her for her comment that I read in the Courier Journal. I think it was the Courier Journal, but I read her comment and I let her know that I was going to be talking to people about this. And she said the truth in the matter is I wasn't surprised, although I truly hoped differently. I think we must not lose hope. I think that hope is all we have, and that a lot of things happen when you have hope. They talk about the faith of a mustard seed. I think we still have that. Even with all of this this bad decision making, we still hope for better. And I think that that is the best thing that I can give people. I'm here because I'm hopeful. I wouldn't have taken this position as Metro Council if I wasn't hopeful for change and wanting to be a part of that in some way. I think that that's the kind of people we need to make sure are in office and that we stand behind them when they make these decisions. Because you can feel very isolated when you're having all this hope and you're bringing it every day and you're doing the work, and then the system, the money, the dollars is stacked against you. We have to show you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have the right decision making to match that spending, it doesn't make a difference. We need decision makers, and Martin Luther King said it best, who are not just in love with money. I'm not in love. I wouldn't be here if I was just in love with money, right? I'm here because it's my turn to do my part, and I'm in the best place of my life to do that. But I don't know how much energy I have, right? Because this work kills people, and you got to deal with the retaliatory effects in everything you do. Who's gonna hire me next locally? Probably nobody. You know what I mean? Like those are the decisions when you choose to stand to be out there, you've selected a position that you could be targeted. You could be blackballed. It happens here. People pick up the phone, they shut you down, they don't support your campaigns, they run candidates against you. It's not easy being a target like that. So when I hear the police chief telling me that these officers put themselves on the line, we do too. And my team got doxxed. I've been doxxed. I've had threatening letters to kill me. So I don't think that he's sensitive to the people who are bringing these issues. There's about 2,000 police, and then there's over 800,000 rest of us. It has to matter what the people need and what they say. Thank
Through
you.
every note, every performance, the arts connect us. The arts connect us through joy and through awe, bridging cultures and generations. From intimate theaters to the grandest stages, the arts bring us together, reminding us that we're never truly alone. When we experience the arts, we experience each other. Kentucky Performing Arts. The arts connect us.
If you do nothing else.
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 If you do nothing